Everybody's always talking about hot game this, hot game that, hot game this, hot game that. But you know what? Let's go back to the old games. These are the old games that score in 2024.
I'm Paul.
I'm Devin.
Together we're Dads and Dice, and just like Devin said, there are so many new games coming out every single year, but we need to show some love to those older games as well. So we're gonna go ahead and give our top 5 from previous years before 2023, starting with my number 5. All right, my number 5 game. This was originally released in 2009, but it did have a second edition last year in 2023. So we're just gonna consider the 2009 version, and that is Shipyard, published by Rio Grande Games and designed by Vladimir Suchi. This game is an action selection game, much like a lot of his other ones, where you have this wheel, and you have this little cube, 2 or 3 cubes depending on how many players that you're playing with, but you're just selecting an action and then picking up the action that you selected before and moving this wheel and just kind of moving it down. Depending where you're placing this action, you're going to be getting some type of money, and then you're just going to be doing all sorts of stuff. So you're going to be running this shipyard. So one of the things that you might do is actually get parts for your ship. So you got to get, you know, the bow and the stern and then the middle of it, and then you're going to be placing it on your board. And this is where this kind of like little puzzly aspect comes in. You can have more than one ship on there at a time. Now, as soon as you complete one of these ships, you have to send it off onto a to its maiden voyage, onto its shakedown cruise is what it's called. So once it's on the shakedown cruise, it's going to be tested for a couple different things. It could be for like life preservers, lanterns, for the types of people that you have on your ships or the type of equipment that you have on your ship, for the speed. So all throughout the round, before you actually send it out on this cruise, you're going to be gathering those things and putting them onto your ship. And of course, if you get people, you need houses for it. And if you have this certain building, if you get this type of worker for it, it's going to be more, it's going to be multiplied more. So just everything about it is really great. He does really awesome with the action selection mechanic, and it's just been kind of a surprise hit for me this year, and I've really enjoyed it.
All right, well, that is one I am super excited to play. Haven't had a chance to yet, so maybe for a future year for me.
There you go.
But my number 5 game is going to be Gugong. This is a game Paul introduced to me back at BGG Spring.
I will take credit, but it was actually Joe. Joe taught us this game.
Joe introduced at BGG Spring, and honestly, I just super enjoyed the game right away. Another, like Paul said, action selection game. You're just playing cards, and it has kind of this trading mechanic where you're trying to beat other cards out there. But I just liked that there was so many different combos that would happen all throughout the game. You would do this action, and doing that lets you actually do this other action in a way, and there was so much going on, but you really kind of like specialized in kind of one thing, and you had whatever that not main, but middle track was that you had to make it in order
it's
to...
not a church, but something
It was like a temple, or you
yeah,
were sending your person up, and you had to make it to the top in order to even win the game, or be eligible to win the game. I just thought it was really cool. The thing I liked the most really was, though, that action selection, and you were needing to beat the card that you were playing, but you were also taking that card, making your hand arguably worse, and so having to kind of manage, how do I actually do this? When is it going to be kind of okay to not beat the card? And I just really enjoyed the game.
Yeah, that was a really good one, and I've got more to say to that in a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get to our number 4s. All right, so my number 4, Devin just hit it right on the head. It's Gugong. Gugong is exactly what he just said, this action selection game. And what I really enjoyed about it, is thematically it all made sense, right? So Devin mentioned you're having to play a higher card than the one that's on there. So thematically, that is, you are giving them a better present. So you're presenting this stuff and then they're giving you these favors because you're giving them something better that was there. What I also really enjoyed about it is at the beginning of every round, there were certain numbers that you wanted to be collecting to score at the end of the round. And so you had to be really strategic in, do I want that action or do I want that card, right? Do I want those things now that's going to help me maybe give them some end game end of round bonuses, or do I really want to do this here? Everything about it was just great. How you were getting more workers, how you'd place them out onto the Great Wall, I think is what it was. And then just the little set collection at the top that you could do with the emeralds, I want to say it is.
Yeah,
the jade eggs. It was the jade eggs. So yeah, Gugong was just a great experience, and I think what really elevated it for me was the fact that I had known absolutely nothing about this game, and Joe just kind of explained it, and I was like, whoa, this is perfect. And at the end of the game, I've talked about it before, but there was a ton of tension where I didn't know if Devin was going to win. I didn't know if I was going to win. And Devin basically had said something like, well, if you're between 12 to 15, I think I got you, or you might have a little bit more. So just any game that you can feel it tight until the end is a terrific game.
Yeah, it was funny because during our play, it actually came shortly after playing the White Castle for the first time, which was also another super combo-y game. And so we played the White Castle and we're like, oh man, that was completely great. Love playing all the combos. And then played into Gugong and it was like, oh man, this is great. Lots of combos. So yeah, game is completely great. For my number 4 game, it is going to be Trickerion. This is a game that has been, we'll call it a bucket list game for me for a very long time. I love Magic, and I have always wanted to play this game and just never had the moment, never had the group, whatever the case was. And so actually at that same con, I convinced Paul and Joe to get to play that with me, and honestly, we had a great time. Talking about theme, I thought, now maybe because I love Magic, but I thought it was very thematic, right? It was, you were just making magic tricks to go prepare, right? I think it's like you bought the, you learned the trick, and then you like bought the items,
and
then you practiced it, and then you set it up backstage, and then you performed it. And so like, to me, it flowed, and it was nice because the game actually had that step of progression, right? It's while it is a heavier game, a lot of times heavier games are easier to manage when they have a very clear-cut path of progression like that. And so you knew at whatever step you were in, right? I just got my ingredients. Okay, now I have to practice it at my workshop or prepare it, whatever it was called. But anyway, I really like the game. It definitely satisfied me. I'm not going to say it's the greatest game of all time, but I know that because of just my love for that theme, it sits pretty high for me.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and go on to our number 3s. All right, for my number 3, we're just going to continue. It is Trickerion, the illusion of magic. So this game, yeah, exactly what Devin said. It was, again, another one like Gugong. I had known nothing about it, and it was just such a surprise of just intermixing theme and a heavy Euro game. What I really, really enjoyed about it was just from the very beginning is the pre-programming of your actions, right? So it's like, before you even do anything, you have to make sure you know what you want to do, and you have to do it in a specific order, because if you don't, it can greatly mess up your turn. But like you said, you know, you're going to go to meet up with the magicians, and they're going to teach you the tricks. And in that section, I think that's what it was, but there's a little bit of dice rolling, a little bit of luck in there. But it was fun because it was just kind of that little luck in the game. You had the market where if somebody were to buy it, it was going to be gone. So you had to maybe change your plans, because if you really needed that and you were going to buy it the next round, it's not going to be there anymore. So you might need to change it a little bit and actually get it then. You could also go to the dark alley, I remember, where it was like you could get tricks.
You get your like upgrades to the different zones, right?
That's what it
So
was,
like you would
yes.
have basic cards, right? So Paul's talking about you going to the market area. You have just a basic card for each of the areas. You could go to the dark alley and you could get something that was doing that action but stronger in some sort of way.
Yeah, and then also on top of that, right, you had the oh no, I need this shipped immediately, right? So it was like that. My performance is tonight. I need it shipped now.
Yeah, you could pay out the
Ungodly
nose
amounts,
to like, I have to have
I need this
item now.
But so, I mean, not only like mechanically and thematically was it good, but there's just so many like memories that I have about that game also. Like, I'm always going to remember the rings, the metal rings that you would start off the thing with. And then just, you know, having your poster like showing so that you could be first player. It was just a game that completely caught me off guard for how heavy it is. Like you said, it's got that progression. It doesn't make it feel as heavy. And I just had a terrific time playing it.
Yeah, absolutely great game. For my number 3 game, it is going to be Caverna. This is another game I have wanted to play for a very long time. I'm a big fan of Uwe Rosenberg, a big fan of Agricola. People say this is very much like Agricola, and it was, right? This is a game you go to BGG, and I don't know the exact ratings, but it's always, you know, Caverna is 38 and Agricola is 40, or they always just
right
sit like right in there with each other, and there's the camp of Agricola is the best and Caverna is the best, and after playing this, I fall into the Caverna camp. I just really enjoy it. I like games that are very sandboxy, and this one is that to a T. There's very little, call it randomness, in just the order, kind of like Agricola, the order of which the cards come out, and it's tight enough that, you know, rounds 1 through 3, these 3 cards are going to come out, just what order are they, and, you know, 4 through 6, and so on. But man, the game was just fun. I have had a chance to play it solo as well, and while the solo not as fun, still enjoyed it very much, getting to do that kind of playing in the sandbox, and I'm going to really focus on this, but just the things that it adds, deciding if you want to do adventuring, you can do that to be your way of getting resources, or you can invest into rubies and let that be your way into resources, or you can just gather resources and then you know, decide I'm going to make some sort of not dwellings, but the other furnishings.
Caves or whatever.
The cave furnishings to kind of up maybe the resources that you get, or giving you some. It's very open-ended, and man, it blew me out of the water.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that game's on your list. And I mean, like a true UE, right? It's going to be that sandbox feel, and yeah, awesome pick. Let's get on to our number 2s. All right, for my number 2 game, we got another Suchi on the list, and this is Praga Kaput Regni. So I recently played this one, I want to say probably about 3 months ago or so. It's one that has been on our radar for quite some time. We've always kind of seen it at the BGG library. Anytime that we're looking up games, it's always on there, ones that you might like. And so we finally got to try it out. And again, you know, Suchi, and he's got his action selection, and he's got this wheel in this one. And on the wheel, there's all different types of tiles, and on each tile, it has different actions that you can take. So you can either upgrade your actions, you can build a wall, you can build out the building, you can go down the St. Charles Cathedral or the St. Charles Road, whatever it's called there. But the thing about the game is you cannot do all of those things. You're gonna have to pick 1 or 2 of those things and really hammer them hard. What's interesting about it though is if you are doing the building, you also have the cathedral and the hunger wall up there, which is just more points. The buildings deal with one of them, and then the walls deal with the other one, and you kind of have to balance out which one you want to hit, because you're probably not going to be doing both of them, right? So it's this really cool balance of like, what actions am I really going to do? Which ones am I just going to dabble in a little bit just to get a little bit more out of it? So far, I've only played it at solo and 2 players. I do think that this game will shine at 3 or 4 player, just the way that action selection will refresh more. There will be more buildings out on the bottom board. But even at 2 players and even at solo, I've had an awesome time playing this game, and I'm so glad I got to check it out.
Yeah, so this one is also my number 2.
Oh, wow.
This one just kind of snuck into the list. Paul had talked about it a couple months ago when he played it, that it was really good. We actually just had the chance to play it earlier this week, I think it was. And I was like, man, that was a fantastic game. It took one playthrough of it for me to be like, I just totally enjoyed it. Like Paul said, you can't do everything. You have to focus. That is where the Euros that I love really kind of shine, and I just like a really tight Euro, one that you have to manage whether it is resources or turns or both, and this one does that really well, right? You have the 12, 20 turns, 16 turns. 16 turns,
right? And then just the gold and the stone that you're not going to get both.
And so it's just... It was just so much fun to play and figure out. Every turn matters whenever it's down like that, and thinking, what am I going to do? Where is this going to? I want to take this action, but really I want to put this action in this segment so that I can claim it later, even if I have to pay for it. And so there was a lot of times where that was the choice, where maybe I'm not actually taking, this is the action I want to be doing this turn. I really want to do this action with the special tile, or whatever the case was, and so I'm going to do this action now in order to tuck it for the special tile, right? The same goes for, there was kind of times where you could try and manipulate it, right? Where I'm going to let this action kick out so it's a lot of points, because really I want Paul to tuck that one into where the next spot is. And there's just a lot of decisions with every single turn, and man, I thought it was a fantastic game.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get to our number 1s. All right, we are here at the top of the list with our number 1s, and for me, that is going to be Abomination, the Heir of Frankenstein. Man, I had such an awesome time playing this game. We've talked about it on our streams a couple times, but this is just a worker placement game where the theme just shines through, and it is the most macabre theme that you could think of. It is so dark, but we were laughing the entire time.
So much
fun.
It was
just so fun.
We didn't take it seriously at all. The digging up bodies, going to the morgue. We just had a complete blast, and so many people stopped by our table
just
because
look at
we're laughing, talking about, oh, I'm gonna get this body, and they'll be like, what are you guys doing?
About?
I mean, literally, countless people stopped, and we were having a blast.
Yeah. So the game has this. It has a little bit of narrative in it as well. So at the start of every round, you're gonna read maybe a paragraph or 2 that's kind of telling you, like, hey, this is kind of what you should go for this round, or this is what you can't do this round, kind of stuff. So all the different spaces, like Devin said, we are trying to basically just reanimate a corpse, and we have to build this corpse. So you're going to different locations, and the locations can be things like a hospital, where the body parts they're fairly fresh. They're just coming off of the corpse, and you could go to a morgue where they're a little bit less fresh. You could go to the cemetery where you're just gonna get bones, right? Like bones and maybe some very bad organs. Yeah. And then you could go to the vet and just get something wild, right? Like it's a wild animal part, and you can put it wherever you want. You can go to the dark alley or whatever it's called there and murder somebody, and you get the freshest.
Make your own fresh body
you get the
part.
freshest organs. So you want the fresher organs because they will last longer, because at the end of every round they disintegrate. That's not the word, but they get worse. They degrade.
Yeah.
So you want to keep them fresh. And if you can't get those fresh ones, you might have to get some ice from somewhere else to keep them cool. So once you get your corpse built, then you actually start rolling some dice in there, and you roll the dice and you send some electricity to it and hopefully reanimate it. I just had a blast playing this game. Honestly, this is what I wish my father's work was. My father's work for me should have been like this grail game, but just the narrative took me out of it, where in Abomination, the narrative put me in there. It put me into that game, put me into that theme. And like we said, it's a pretty dark theme, but if you just go into it just having fun, it was awesome. And it was fairly heavy. I think it took us like 3 hours to play, but it was a good game because it did not feel like 3 hours.
Yeah, we were having fun the entire time, and I agree with what Paul said with My Father's Work. I think My Father's Work is a better mechanical game, but if it could have taken, let me just at the beginning of the round read this index card of narrative, and that be it. I did like the changing of the board, but it just, if every, we'll call it 10 minutes of gameplay, you have to read 10 minutes of narrative, that it took away from the game more than enhances it. But yeah, I think that's a fantastic pick. My number one, another Uwe Rosenberg game, and that is Fields of Arle.
Nice.
Going back to another sandbox, right? This one, truly pure sandbox. It's head-to-head 2-player, and the game just says go, and you go, and that's it. You figure out how you are going to make victory points, and there is a feast for Odin worth of paths and things to do. Not quite that many, but it is a ton of worker selection spaces. And man, if it is not just a completely fantastic game and everything up my alley, right? It's all the common Uwe Rosenberg things, right? You're going to be breeding,
agriculture,
and, doing all of this stuff, and shipping off goods and all kinds of things like that. But we just totally enjoyed it. But the thing I loved the most about the game was you played through, I can't remember if it was summer and winter or spring and fall, however it was, but summer and winter, right? And so summer is the left half of the worker spaces, and winter is the right half. And they each have roughly 15, I'm going to say. But one person each round can take a off-season action, but in taking that off-season action, you give up being first player. And so it was always kind of this delicate dance, right? Because commonly, it's fine if the first player goes over there, because if nobody goes over there, well, they would have lost first player and it went to the other person. But there was kind of always this, well, maybe they're going to take the off season and I'll get to be first twice. And so I just really enjoyed it. Or sometimes it was, man, I need to do that action and I'm going to go second 2 turns in a row, but that's what I'm going to do. And I really thought that was so clever, on top of all the other great things about the game.
Yeah, this is one that you and Joe got to play the day that I wasn't able to go to BGG Con or BGG Spring, and just the way that you talked about it, there's no surprise that this is your number one game. Somehow a week or 2 after the con, I saw it posted up. Somebody posted this game up on our local, Facebook page, and I just picked it up immediately. I just snagged it, and I was like, I know Devin's gonna love this game. I'm gonna buy it. Brought it over, surprised you with it, and Absolutely. I knew that you'd love it. So that's an awesome pick.
Yeah, so that was our top new to us games of 2024. In the comments below, tell us if you agree, you think these are awesome games, or these games completely suck and you guys are wrong. That's totally fine. And tell us, I was going to say, tell us, what is the top new games that you guys played in 2024?
Yep, that is it for us. As always, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. All that stuff really does help us, helps our channel grow. We'll see y'all next time. Is our number one going to be the same?
Absolutely not. You haven't played my number.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, it's got to be this one then. All right.
Yeah.